I would like to invite my colleague and friend, Lital Shemesh.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Friedman. We now turn to one of the most complex challenges of our time. How does radical Islam fuel anti-Semitism in the West, and can we counter this incitement? Joining me for this vital discussion are four distinguished voices, each bringing unique expertise and perspective. Come up on stage. MEP Charlie Weimers, member of the European Parliament. MEP Dr. Kinga, Vice Chair of Patriots for Europe. Dr. Eli David, AI researcher and entrepreneur. Mr. Luai Ahmed, journalist and columnist. And Mr. Meir Chaviv, former parliament member of the National Assembly in France. Thank you so much for joining me. So we're here to discuss this very important topic on how radical Islam is funding anti-Semitism activities, whether it's online, on social media, whether it's inside universities. And I would like to take each one of you to give me his take and his perspective, whether it's in France, in Europe, worldwide. How did we get to a situation where students in America who used to demonstrate for climate change are now demonstrating against Israel? Eli, maybe Dr. David, maybe you want to start.
Sure, thank you. I think there are two forces driving what we see, the encampments in the US universities and all the Free Palestine cult. One of them is the jihadist Islamist sect. Again, the same people who want to drive us out of here. There are some of them funding the universities. Many of them are illegal immigrants, as Ambassador Friedman said, that the US is trying to kick out of the US. So that is one part of that. The other part is the current thing cult. The same idiots who were part of the climate cult until a while back, they are now part of the Free Palestine cult. Now, people like Greta Thunberg, now it's clear, they didn't care at all about the environment or the climate. It was just a stupid cult. And the same people have now moved to the Palestine cult. They don't know where is Palestine, where is Israel, where is Middle East. They cannot point it on the map, but they know that they're part of the thing. They are kind of more enlightened if they chant Free Palestine or Black Lives Matter or climate change. It's the same stupidity and radical Islam. They are united together in Ivy League universities.
Yeah, incredible. And maybe, Luai, we'll get your perspective on what is happening in the Emirates, because I think, in a way, the Emirates is a good example of a process of a country who got closer to the West, who signed a peace agreement with Israel. Yet again, we have all those forces funding Islamic, extremist Islamic.
You're absolutely right. The UAE, even though it's not the perfect country and it does not have the best constitution and human rights, it is showing that there is hope in the Middle East. So the main why the Middle East is radical is because of two things. It is the mosques and it is the schools. It is the same mosques and schools that I grew up in and chanted "kill the Jews" in, chanted "kill the Zionists" in. And these mosques and schools are systematically teaching children to become Jew haters. And the problem that we have is that it's still ongoing right now. In Gaza, they are printing out new books this year during the war that say that the Houthis are heroes, and they have these cartoons of the Houthis being hero pirates. The UAE figured out the only way for them to maintain their economic prosperity is to get closer to the West. And what they're doing right now is, like I said, in Yemen and Gaza, you have imams that say, kill the Jews, kill the Zionists. The UAE gives their imams scripts that they have to read. And if an imam does not read the specific script that does not include violence and anti-Semitism and hatred towards women, these imams are jailed. Now, Charlie, what happens in Sweden when we have imams that preach anti-Semitism and sexism and all kinds of extremism? you don't touch them because Sweden is a democracy and we respect human rights and we love Muslims and we love immigrants. So we tiptoe around these radical ideologies that are being imported from the Middle East to the West. So, yeah, that's right.
And in a way, I think, would you agree with me that the Western world is giving more power to people who are speaking for the extremist Islamic and not for people like you who are pro-peace, pro-coexistence?
Absolutely. The West has paved the way for Islamism to take over. I mean, I'm sitting here on this panel with Charlie, and because we're coming from Sweden, we know how Sweden is the most extreme form of huge numbers of people coming from the Middle East. And we see that the Swedish government is completely helpless. They don't know what to do. What is happening right now is the Middle East is sending little Gazas to the West. And the Westerners are completely unaware of what's going on. So Europe has a huge challenge ahead of it. And I'm happy to see that Israel is at the forefront, fighting not only for the right for the Jewish people to exist, but the Western humanitarian rights. So.
Yeah. Charlie, Kinga, can you shed some light about what is happening in Europe these days?
Well, let's see. Here we go. No? I will try to do that by using a phrase coined by Jewish Canadian Dr. Gad Saad, suicidal empathy. It sums it up pretty well. Now, I couldn't help but note that yesterday during Mr. Jonathan Greenblatt's address, which I commend him for doing, he alluded to forces that instrumentalize the fight against anti-Semitism for sinister purposes. Well, I guess he was referring to some of the parties, like mine, that recently had normalized relations with the State of Israel. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I used to be the chairman of the Young Christian Democrats of Sweden, some 15, 20 years ago, back when I was young and talented. At that time, the Young Christian Democrats wanted to commemorate the Kristallnacht. So they went there with an Israeli flag, and they were chased out of that manifestation because of that Israeli flag. In 2009, some of you remember that Sweden was to play Davis Cup tennis against Israel in the city of Malmö. And you might remember how terrified the Jewish population of Malmö were. And the comments by the Social Democratic mayor of Malmö, Mr. Ilmar Reepalu, who said, well, maybe the Jews of Malmö should think twice about their support for Israel. So this Islamo-leftism, I saw with my own eyes back when I was part of the establishment, if you will. I noted how the Forum for Living History, a government authority in Sweden 20 years ago, published statistics on the views on Jews in Sweden. And I was terrified to learn about the rise of anti-Semitism in immigrant groups. So what Foreign Minister Zaar said, what starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews, was something that I realized back then. It alarmed me, and maybe, just maybe, the treatment of Jews in today's Europe is the reason why people like me are not in those parties anymore that allowed this to happen, my friends. Maybe that's why we're here as representatives of Sweden Democrats and others. You know, so keep that in mind, and let me just say, it was the mandate from the Sweden Democrats that made it possible for me to fight funding, EU funding, of the Muslim Brotherhood in the European Parliament. And we're on the right way, and you know what? I'm proud to say that I, through the report I commissioned, stopped the funding with taxpayer money of the Islamic University of Gaza.
Incredible. Kinga.
It was eye-opening after the 7th of October what's happening in the world and what's happening in the Western world. It would have been the place, the time for grievance, but it had to start fight here in Israel and fight for us in Europe. And we do it still then in the European Parliament every day. We fight against Islamist, radical Islam. We fight against the left who is helping this. And as I am vice president of the Hungarian ruling Fidesz party, I have to tell you that we decided in 2015 not to fall in the trap of the Western world. So we said that through Hungary, through the borders of Hungary, we will not allow illegal migrants. We will not allow radical Islam. And instead of getting help, instead of getting encouragement that we are not only protecting the borders of Hungary, but the external borders of Europe, that situation like in France, in Sweden, in Belgium, all over Europe should not happen, we got
Yeah, I think you can continue.
yeah, it works. We got procedure, we got court proceeding in front of the European Court. We got fines. We pay each day, today, yesterday, tomorrow, 1 million euros, because we still say that we won't allow illegal migrants through our borders. But you can count on us. And that is why today in Hungary we are different. We can say that the Jewish community has a safe haven now in Hungary. That is why we could invite Maccabi Games to be there, and players and visitors could come and be there. That is why we think that it's important that when in the West synagogues are burned down, we build them, and we have each week a Jewish cultural event. I think it is a difference. It is worth doing it. It is the only possibility what we can do, because this is righteous.
Amazing. May, let's talk about the situation of the Jews in France who are suffering tremendously with the radical Islam, with numerous of anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic events.
Thank you. Sorry, first of all, for my English, which is not perfect, with my strong French accent, but I will try to do it in English. Thank you to open the light a little bit in this obscurity, Minister Shikli. I'm not worried for the Jew. I'm worried for my country, for France. You know what's the new slogan today in France in Place of République? From the river to the sea. You have every week hundreds of French people which demonstrate with that slogan. And the chief of the left party even don't know where is the Jordan. That's the point today. They kill 5 million in Congo. They kill almost 1 million in Syria, in Libya, in Iran, in Yemen, in everywhere. You know how many demonstrations you had in France? 0. Only for the Jew. And today, my country wants to shoot Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Gallant. I'm ashamed of my country. I tell you the truth. I love France. That's my country, but I'm a Jew. Israel will win the war, but I'm worried for France, what's happened today. Jordan Bardella, I'm not in his party, and I am in the Republican Party. But what he said was very strong. Thank you also, Jordan, what he said. and you know, we will win that win. We will have to do this, all of us, together from our value, from France, from Europe, before it's almost too late. So awake, gentlemen. Thank you.
Amazing. And in the 5 minutes that we have left, let's talk about the solutions. Is there a solution to when today the average student is opening TikTok and we know millions and billions of dollars are being spent on anti-Semitic content? Qatar is funding anti-Semitism on campuses in America. What's the solution? How can we solve this problem?
Well, there is a combination of those actors which are intentionally funding these, for example, the Qataris and the Ivy League universities funded, many of them by them, and you have the kind of anti-Semitism propagated in social network. Now, on the social network, some people criticize Elon Musk for allowing that, but for all the pro-Israelis that are sitting here, all of us can attest that we'd rather be on a platform that has more free speech, like X, rather than other platforms that they censor us, and for any post by the anti-Semites, they remove 10 or 100 posts by our side, or they call us extreme right-wing just for saying sane opinions. So I don't think the free speech is the problem. I think it's actually good that each one of those students, if they have the heart and minds, as Ambassador Friedman alluded, they can find the information. We need to go to the source of the funding. Those actors who are not just propagating misinformation, they are funding to erode the basis of our Western civilization. That is the biggest problem.
Luai?
Asking for solutions is kind of wild because it's hard to find solutions to what's going on. I think my personal solution is to fight anti-Semitism and radical Islamism in my own circles and in social media. But what I would say to the Jewish community is continue to be yourself. Because from my understanding, I didn't know Jews before I moved to Sweden. And then when I moved to Sweden, I realized that, they didn't have horns, they didn't have tails, they were incredible human beings. But I also understood that being Jewish and what the Jewish community is all about, besides being a strong people, it's being beacons of light, education, science, technology. This country that they're trying to get rid of has published more academic and scientific research in the past 10 years than the entire Middle East. So my advice is to continue being yourselves and never be ashamed of who you are. So that's it.
Maybe some last words from you guys?
So my eyes are on the European Union as a member of the European Parliament, and as I said, we were able to stop the funding to the Islamic University of Gaza because even the European Commission understood how hard a sell it was to the taxpayer of Europe to tell them that you're funding chemistry lessons in a university run by Hamas. So to discover this funding, the personal unions between different Muslim Brotherhood front organizations through AI could be something. I'm just working on a new report that is going to be produced by Florence Bergeau-Blackler and Tommaso Virgili to be presented later this spring, uncovering new funding of the European Union to these Muslim Brotherhood organizations. But one thing we could do, and that we're seeing, that a lot of funds are being funneled to anti-Islamophobia organizations. And those of you that know the tactics of the Ikhwan, of the Muslim Brotherhood, you know that it's a catchword. They want to use it to shame all criticism of radical Islam. So to find every usage of that word in EU documents will be my mission. And before I'm done, the EU will have stopped using that word. That's a solemn promise. Thank you.
Kinga?
Let's thank Minister Shikli to be able to be present here. I think it's historic what's happening here, and we are grateful for that. And I think it's very important to look where the enemy is and where is not. It's also a lesson of these days. And the other thing that we have to follow what the Trump administration just started with just closing the USAID funding. Look at what's happening, what's coming out of that wardrobe, what kind of skeletons there are coming out. And still, the EU is doing the same. So we will have to ask to call for the EU to show what kind of NGOs, what kind of projects are funded, because we will find our skeletons in our closet also, wardrobe also. So I think it is very important that we show what we already started, to show that the textbooks are very important not to be financed by the European Union, those textbooks which are distributed in Gaza, because there the problem starts. I think that's also an important message, and that we are together. We have to fight together this for a long period, and I think we are strong enough if we are together on this. Thank you.
Beautifully spoken. Thank you so much for being with me in this panel. Thank you.